This is Pete Fletcher. On this episode of Around the Galaxy, we're talking to Jordan from the internet resource Wookieepedia.
And if I can make someone else smile just by dropping a little gift, an iconic hello there, if I can make somebody's day a little bit better with that, let's do it. We have that ability. Let's make people smile.
You're listening to Around the Galaxy.
Welcome to episode number 147 of Around the Galaxy, the Star Wars fan talk show. I am your host, Pete Fletcher. Thank you so much for joining us this week. If this is your first visit with Around the Galaxy, thank you so much for checking us out. I can't thank you enough for spending some time with us. And if you're a return visitor, well, you know the drill. Every single week, we bring you a one-on-one interview with somebody who's got a great Star Wars story to tell, whether they are Oscar-winning effects artists or voice actors or authors or social media voices or personalities. We get to know them, and we bring you sort of that special moment when two Star Wars fans meet for the first time. And then on Saturdays, we have a show called Disturbances in the Force. Give us 5 minutes, and we'll give you the galaxy. We comb through all the Star Wars news from the previous week, and there is a lot. I mean, it is hard to keep up with. But we put it all together in one little digest that you can listen to while you're drinking your Saturday morning coffee. We don't put any spin on it. We don't put any opinion, and we don't put any clickbait. Just the news from the previous week right there for you on Saturday mornings. Well, this week we are talking to Jordan, who is an administrator for the Star Wars wiki called Wookieepedia. Now, Wikipedia has been around for, 10 years or so, and it has over 172,000 articles about Star Wars facts, information, characters, locations, books, authors, you name it. Listen, if you've ever gone to Google and searched for anything about Star Wars, there's a real good chance you've gone through Wikipedia to get that information. And the amazing thing about Wikipedia is that even though it's not an officially sanctioned Lucasfilm archive of information, I know from interviews with all of the Star Wars authors I've been fortunate enough to talk to, they go to Wikipedia. This is like the place for all the information you need about Star Wars. And to add to what made this interview so much fun is the fact that Jordan may be the most positive guy I've ever spoken to. He gets it. He gets what being a Star Wars fan online is all about. And I'm really excited to bring you this conversation.
But are you excited to hear from me, your resident battle droid, with this week's podcast review?
Of course, AT. Happy holidays. How are you?
Well, I mean, yes, it's the holiday season, so I consider this a gift.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Look, I don't have a heart. I'm like all circuitry and whatnot, but that's not the point, Pete. Here's a review. Let me read it to you.
Okay, go ahead. Yep.
Okay. This podcast always has great guests, and the weekly news is great too.
Wow.
They're pumping up that Disturbances in the Force thing. That's nice. And then it goes on to say, what I really love is that droid who reads the reviews at the beginning of each episode.
It is. Yep.
Oh, wow. And then it says, that ATG3 sure is great.
Okay.
I love his sharp wit and charm. He should have his own show.
Okay. Hey, AT, did you write that review yourself?
No.
No, because I was looking at it while you were reading it, and I saw the little icon on there. I'm pretty sure it came from our own account.
Yeah, well, I mean...
Yeah, hey, listen, I mean...
well, I was just hoping for the holiday season. I didn't know what to get you, so I figured, why not give you a great review on your podcast on Apple Podcasts or Podchaser or wherever you listen to your podcasts.
Wow, AT, that is the nicest thing you've ever done.
I can't do it. I can't.
Okay,
no,
see?
I was trying to kind of work it in as a little sales pitch.
Yeah, no, that's not your thing. Hey, listen, though, in all seriousness, if you want to give us a gift, you can do it by giving us a 5-star review on Podchaser or Apple Podcasts. And now Jordan from Wookieepedia.
This is Jordan from Wikipedia, and you're listening to Around the Galaxy.
Jordan, how are you doing?
Thanks so much for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Oh, it's great to have you with us, and all the way from Beautiful Canada. It's when I think of winter and the holidays, I often think of Canada. But it's great that you could join us, Jordan. For those that don't know you, give us maybe just a little bit of your background, who you are, and what your connection is to Wikipedia.
So I'm, as you said, I'm from Canada, Ontario specifically. I've been a member of Wikipedia since I started editing back in probably about 2011. But like everyone, I read for a couple of years before that. And once you make that first edit, you just kind of never look back.
And so actually, when we're done here, I'm going to pick your brain because I'm trying to figure out I want to become a part of the Wikipedia community because there's so much great stuff there. But so tell me a little bit about yourself and your Star Wars journey. When did you first see Star Wars and what's some of your earliest Star Wars memories?
So for me, it wasn't so much the movies. Obviously, growing up, I knew of them. I knew about the whole... spoiler alert, Darth Vader is Luke's father. I knew about all of that, growing up. But for me, it was when I went into a used bookstore and I found a copy of Heir to the Empire. After I read that, it was like it just clicked. I was hooked right off the get-go. From there, I just pretty much started buying any book I could find from any used bookstore. Didn't matter if it was book 2 of a trilogy. I would just read it, use Wikipedia to fill in the gaps, and then just never look back.
So you have been with Wikipedia since 2016. Did I get that right?
2011. So was when I
2011.
That's when I made my first edit. Then I became an administrator on site. I think it was in 2015.
Wow. So and when did Wikipedia start officially?
So we were born in 2005.
Okay. Wow. So 2005, you've been there for 10 years in one form or another. Tell me, maybe for the people who are listening to the show who are, they may be Star Wars fans, but not like the deep-seated nerd that I am. Maybe what's the best way to describe Wikipedia to people who aren't familiar with it?
So Wikipedia is like the Jedi Archives. We are the largest Star Wars encyclopedia on the planet. We're entirely fan-run. At last count, we have, I believe, I'm just trying to pull it up now, we have, in terms of actual articles, so like content pages, 172,136 articles. Pretty much we exist to document Star Wars as it is so that everyone can learn a little bit more.
It's great. Now, so it was started way back in almost coming up, I guess, on 20 years ago. And how do you respond to somebody who's actively engaged with it in one of the, what is it, 7 administrators? Did I get that right, or is it?
So we have there's 10 that have admin rights. So we have 7 that are administrators and 3 that are what's called bureaucrats, which essentially means they just have a couple more buttons.
Oh, okay. and what exactly does a Wikipedia admin do?
So we have no more power. In the grand scheme of things, we don't have any more power than any other user. We just have access to a couple more buttons. So we have access to page deletion. Whenever there's community votes, we close the forums afterwards and we implement whatever was decided. And we basically are there to just represent the community. All of us are voted in by the community. We can be voted out at any point if someone feels we're not doing a good enough job. But by and large, we just have a few more buttons.
A few more
shiny buttons, but buttons nonetheless.
Yeah, well, hey, any button is a fun button, I think, generally speaking.
Just don't accidentally delete the wrong page.
Yeah, right. I deleted George Lucas. Is that going to be a problem? I hope nobody minds.
Shout out to one of our admins. Shout out to one of our admins, Cav, who, when he first became an admin, I don't know how he managed it, but he somehow accidentally deleted our featured article nomination page.
Oh boy! So
something that we never let him forget.
I would imagine no, you don't do that and then ever forget about it. That's pretty wild. So Wikipedia is probably one of the earlier, correct me if I'm wrong, but one of the earlier fan wikis, right?
I think we are. I know there was a couple others through the early days of the internet, but I think we were the largest and kind of most comprehensive right off the get-go.
Yeah, and so now you've got a ridiculous number of articles, and for people who aren't familiar with how a wiki or even Wikipedia works, it's the content is essentially curated by the public, right? Yeah,
it's entirely fan run. Anyone can come in and edit any page they would like. as long as you just follow all applicable guidelines and policies. We're very strict when it comes to sourcing, but that's the beauty of this. Anyone can come in and work on whatever they feel like and then leave at any point. Myself, for example, I tend to drift more towards Legends novels, and currently my project is the Camino Uprising mission from the original Battlefront 2. But everyone's kind of got their little niche interests, their niche hobbies, kind of their own niche thing about what brings them here.
So like, for example, you're talking about, so you go through the missions, you go through the video game, and you look for things that need entries that don't have entries, or entries that are ready to be updated. Is that right?
Yeah, so essentially just expanding pages. I'll use Camino Uprising, the page I'm working on right now, as an example. It was written probably back in the early days. It needed kind of a lot of updating to modernize it. Needed a little more details to kind of bring it up to current article standards.
And it's constantly changing. And tell me a little bit about when there was the clear distinction between canon and legends. What was that like for the people in the Wookieepedia admin offices working through trying to make those separations? How did you, what did that look like?
Well, that was an interesting time. Like the best way I can describe the early moments was, oh fuck, what do we do? Because it's an unprecedented thing. Nothing that we'd ever been through could have prepared us for how to handle that. So there was a lot of immediate discussion on how do we cover everything? What do we do? Because obviously we're not going to just delete everything else. And I believe it was Cade, one of our regular users and former administrators, who came up with the idea of a tab system where you could click between Legends and Canon. And he was very much the driving force behind implementing that. It's our resident code monkey, as we call him.
That's great. And now, does Wookieepedia operate on a? Is it funded by any sort of an ad system?
So we don't actually. We're actually hosted by Fandom. For those of you who don't know, Fandom is a large global company. They host pretty much any wiki site that you've ever seen. So us, Memory Alpha, pretty much any fan wiki. So they handle everything like that, and we just get to focus on the content.
That's great. And so you said that you're focusing right now on a lot of the Legends books, et cetera. Is everybody sort of assigned a little bit of an area of specialty?
No, so everyone just kind of comes in and does whatever they feel like working on. Like we had a guy, Yakov, who came in a couple months ago, and his immediate interest was all things to do with Thrawn, especially the new canon books. So he started working on that. Someone else will come in and decide that, like Cade, for example, they like the Old Republic MMO, so he came in and wrote up Revan.
Wow!
Everyone just kind of does what piques their interest.
And so basically, there is anything related to Star Wars you can find there, whether it's books, movies, TV, characters, comic books. Is there anything that you guys sort of put in the this isn't Star Wars enough for Wookieepedia?
Not so much. So if it's an officially published, or not even so much officially published, but if it's something that's been officially created, we cover it. I think the only point where we draw a distinction is when it comes to sorts of like fan projects. And then in that regard, we stick with things that are notable, like the 501st Legion, for example.
Right. Yeah. Well, I could
like,
definitely.
We couldn't have someone who just said, "Oh, I made a Star Wars club," and then make a page. There's some guidelines.
Right. You can. Me and my buddies get together on Saturday and we watch a movie. Is that cool? Can we put that in there? No, I don't.
Much as we'd like to make a page for the Around the Galaxy cast.
Oh, we're gonna get there because I wrote for Star Wars Galaxy magazine. We're gonna get a page, at least a Fletzer page. We're gonna get one together. We'll figure that out. We'll do that offline. We won't do a live demo here. We'll worry about that later. But but I can definitely say that, for instance, when I wrote my Star Wars fan fiction novelization of The Phantom Menace, I used Wookieepedia all the time. I was digging in because there is no way to really know and keep up with all the sort of ins and outs from Legends to canon and things like that. How does it feel for you because you see it all the time? You see one of the creators reference Wookieepedia, or if it's in Wookieepedia, it's official kind of commentary. How does that make you guys feel when you see people who are creating the content, referencing the content that you're, curating.
Honestly, whenever I see an author or a creator go onto Twitter and say, "Oh, I found this cool thing on Wikipedia and I used it in this," it just makes me happy because it means people like us.
Right. It's doing what it's supposed to do. Right. Yeah.
Honestly, I think everyone takes a lot of pride in what we do here, and people have come and gone over the years, but we have a very large, very vibrant community, and everyone gets a little bit of an enjoyment out of seeing other people enjoy what we work on.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's one of the cool things about wikis broadly, whether it's, the godfather of them all, the Wookieepedia, or all the some of the little really niche fandom ones, et cetera, is just, it really is a place where people can go and again, I think obviously most people use it to look something up versus contribute, but it's great that people can contribute. How many people have contributed articles to Wikipedia?
Oh, over the years, probably, if you're including people who have just come in and made like a minor tweak, like fixing a typo, it would be thousands upon thousands of people. In terms of actual community, though, at any given time, we probably have at least 50 or so regular editors who are here kind of on a daily basis. We all coordinate through our Discord channel as well. I'll drop you a link to that as well if you ever want to join our Discord. And I'll drop a link at some point here for it as well. Everyone's more than welcome to join.
So there's a question here from William Hardy, and William says he'd like to know how you react to reveals and information. Whenever a trailer's dropped, do you research as much as you can, or is this stuff that's done by fans to go in there? And at what point do you start to enter something? And I'll add to William's question, because we've seen things in Book of Boba Fett, for example, trailers or teasers, but at what point are they ready to go into Wikipedia?
Pretty much the moment that they go live. The only exception being if it's something that's leaked a few days early, we don't allow it on site until the official release.
Got it.
And great, William, thanks for asking that. Or great question, William. Thank you for asking that. But yeah, it's pretty much just as soon as it goes live, anyone can come in and add it to the site.
This is Dan Zare, and you're listening to Around the Galaxy.
Let's talk about, because it's no secret, and actually this is kudos to you and to the entire Wookieepedia team. It is really great to see Wikipedia really starting to engage, right? For years you were sort of the book that people would have to walk up to and sort of find, and now you're proactively engaging. What kind of inspired you to start? There's now a Wikipedia YouTube channel, and your Twitter handle is incredibly active. What was sort of the thinking behind that?
So, not to toot my own horn, but in terms of Twitter and YouTube, those ones were me. Outside of here, I work retail and I do some social media work as well. So social media is kind of my my forte. So when I took over our Twitter account back at the end of May, my first thought was not so much what have we been, it's what can we be. We already know that everyone uses Wikipedia for their own research. We already know that authors use it. We already know that people who write fan fiction use it. We know that people come here just for the sake of they're bored and they want to browse something. So why don't we proactively go out and engage with them and invite people to come talk to us? We can be the encyclopedia, but we can also be so much more than that. Yeah.
And there's certainly there's a bit, I think, when the Star Wars fandom works well, and I've talked a lot about this lately on the show, is it really is just such an incredibly positive community. It's one of those things where people, it is Star Wars is community, right? I don't know. Have you ever been to Star Wars Celebration? I have not. Have you made it yet?
I wish.
Yeah,
I wish. It's one of my dreams is to go there. I know that we've actually had a table at a previous one. I can't remember which one, but I would love to be able to attend one.
The pilgrimage, right? I'm going to my very first. I've been a Star Wars fan for 40 years, whatever, since 43 years, and I've never been to Star Wars Celebration. I covered Star Wars for Star Wars Galaxy magazine, never went to a celebration. This year will be my first year, and I'm really excited about it. But I reference that because I think that's what the social media community for Star Wars can be, and it's great to see one of the most important and trusted resources engaging there as well. So, and I think, as we just see, like right here, we have the what is it? Podcast of Will says one of the highlights of my week last week was having Wikipedia follow me on Twitter, and it's really great. But I think it's, we talked a little bit about it before we got on, and I think it's worth revisiting. Back earlier this year, there was quite a flare up when Wikipedia was seen as not responding to the needs of the community when it came to dead naming. Was it an author?
It was a creator of some official artwork, and
Right.
they are an absolutely amazing person. I've had a lot of chats with them, and they've been absolutely fantastic. But yes, it was a very, very dark time. It wasn't something that the vast majority of our community wanted to do, and the vast majority of our community was opposed to dead naming in any way, shape, or form, because we all understand that this is not okay.
Right.
This goes beyond a fictional universe. This is somebody's actual life and livelihood, and something that has created deep meaning to their personal mental health. When the user had started that vote to ban dead naming, it was intended to be just, okay, we're not going to do this. This codifies it as policy, so we can just say, okay, here's the policy. We're not doing this. And then things just went sideways from there.
Yeah, there was a hashtag campaign. There were people who were pushing for it, and ultimately, if I understand it correctly, if I read the Wikipedia entry correctly, you changed the policy of the fandom platform. Yeah.
Yeah, we did. So fandom ended up having to get involved in this, and that was also at the request of several of our admins and editors, because it was just beyond anything we could have ever handled on our own. We just didn't really know how to handle it at that point, especially when we had one of our former administrators who has been removed by fandom at the request of several users, coming out saying all sorts of things about search engine optimization and how historically we have to have this information. At the end of the day, no, we don't. If anybody else changed the name, we would update the page and be done with it. This is no different.
Yeah. And it seems like the biggest win there, as I saw it, was, first of all, let me rephrase it. The biggest win, of course, was doing the right thing by the person who was affected, and then close second is doing right by the community, and then third is just jumping on it as quickly as you did. I think this was again, we talked a little bit earlier about how the fandom is such a tight-knit community and a very supportive community. We're seeing things like now, for example, with the Star Wars Eclipse video game and Quantic Dream, and as a related example to one of the challenges that you pulled through. But it's really important, and I think it speaks volumes about Wikipedia that you responded the way you did, as quickly as you did. It could have very easily been it's the policy of the platform. We can't change it. We'd love to, but we can't. But that wasn't good enough for you. What was it like with the administrators? How did you all sort of work together to get to a point where you were where you needed to be?
Well, me personally, as soon as that was at a time where, because of just real life hectic stuff, I was kind of away from the site for a couple of weeks. So when I came back on and found, oh, what the heck is going on here? It's kind of like, okay, what's going on? What do we do?
Yeah.
And that led to, there was a bit of a divide early on, because some people just innocently weren't familiar with dead naming as a whole. They weren't familiar with the appropriate ways to handle it, and they were looking at it specifically from just a documentation side.
Sure.
And then you had on the other side people who kind of had a little more understanding of this, how this hurts people, how it's not something that we can do. And everyone who was on the other side of that were great when it came to trying to learn a bit more, and everyone understands now why it was.
Mm-hmm.
But early on, nobody nearly knew what to do.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it was a first time situation, right? I mean, it's and again, it's that flexibility. And I, as much as it's an amazing thing that Wikipedia was willing to take a risk on, and it's not even a risk, right? But to be able to, I mean, as norms change, as culture changes, it's hard to be at the front of that, and so it was refreshing to see that the community itself, not just as a quote unquote Star Wars community, but as a group of people, were able to all kind of pull together and do the right thing on that. What was the response did you get the response that you expected from the community? And is that one of the things that drove you into, engaging a bit more with the Star Wars community in the social space?
Yeah, it definitely had a big impact on me, wanting to push for us to be go a little more for outreach instead of just kind of being there. Mm-hmm. Kind of proactively engage and let people know, hey, this is who we are. This is what we stand for. We stand for this community has a place for everybody, and everybody belongs here. Mm-hmm. And initially, that the vote itself had an overwhelming majority in support of banning dead naming. Mm-hmm. Until a lot of false information got thrown out about search engine optimization and things that, quite frankly, didn't matter. And that had a big impact on me trying to engage with the fan community at large. And incidentally, running our Twitter is one of the highlights of my day. I have an absolute blast doing it every day. I get to meet so many amazing people. It's just so much fun. This community is amazing.
Yeah, and again, I think that's one of the key things, is how wonderful and how good this community is to be with and be a part of, and it's great. Now, JD, who is one of our patrons here, JD, thanks for hanging out with us tonight, man. Good to see you. He says, how does the site manage the hate and negativity to the sequels? Because I'll again add to that. Do you see some of the, because again, when we talk about that sort of fringe negativity in the fandom, it tends to come out in the sequels or in any place. Do you see that in Wikipedia entries, and how do you respond to it?
Oh, that's a great question, JD, and thanks for asking. Also, preface by saying, if at any point I stumble on my words, I just have a very bad connection, so I apologize in advance. But quite honestly, the easiest way to avoid that, or the easiest way to manage that hate and negativity, is to just avoid it and document things specifically from an in-universe lore standpoint. Because everyone has their own preferences on what they like and dislike, and that's totally fine. Not everyone has to like everything, but at the end of the day, we're all here because we love Star Wars.
That to me, I laugh at that because it's so simple, and it's such there's so much complexity. And now let me ask you, you said you were a social media sort of person before you started doing it for Wikipedia. Has your opinion changed of anything related to social media and Star Wars since you've been so actively involved? You guys went from like 0 to 50,000 followers in a minute and a half. So you've been actively engaged. You've been actively out there. Have you seen anything that's just been like, oh, this is surprising or no, or anything like that?
I think the thing most surprising for me was just the number of people that just wanted to interact and engage with us. Because I've always seen people that like interacting with Mark Hamill, for example, or actors and authors, but I never expected people would want to interact with the Wookieepedia. I was pleasantly surprised by that, and honestly, I was grinning for days after some of those initial interactions.
It's wild how a social media presence, or even a website presence as yours has gained a celebrity sort of status, and it's true. It was so fun to watch people posting in my little community that I'm a part of on a regular basis, just like, oh, thank you, I can't believe Wikipedia followed me, I can't believe it was, and when he followed me, it was like I was so excited about it. But it's cool that Wikipedia has that status.
Honestly, the mentality I have when I go into social media is, how can I make somebody else smile today? And if I can make someone else smile just by dropping a little gif of Mark Hamill saluting, or an iconic hello there, if I can make somebody's day a little bit better with that, let's do it. We have that ability. Let's make people smile.
That is honestly, that is one of the, I think, the social media lessons we could all learn. There are times like especially as, like, for example, Spider-Man No Way Home is moments away. By the time this drops on audio, it will have been out for a couple days. But it's amazing to me to watch people, and I post it all the time, the comment of there's no reason to yuck somebody's yum, right? There's no there have been times, and I will admit, and people who follow me know, I do get into the occasional scrap, and only because I just have zero tolerance for the negativity out there and the trolling. And to your point, it is so much easier to just hit the little heart icon when somebody says something that you like, and it means so much, especially from somebody like Wookieepedia, to see them, people open their phone and see Wookieepedia liked my post or Wookieepedia replied. Why not make their day? And to the other side, why bother to tell somebody that they're wrong if you disagree with them? There's no point to that, is there?
Yeah, and that's, like I said before, at the end of the day, we all love Star Wars. That's why we're here.
Yeah.
Like with anything in life, not everyone's going to like everything, and you don't have to. But we all love Star Wars. That's why we're here. I wouldn't be here if I didn't love Star Wars.
Yeah. No, it's exactly. And why fight about it, right?
Yeah, and a lot of the hate that I see on social media on a daily basis, it's like, it's not worth the energy to hate. Just find something that you love. It's not worth getting into an argument with somebody because you didn't like The Last Jedi.
Yeah.
So what you don't like, somebody else found inspiration in.
100%. I love hearing that. And that is so true. I mean, it is, I said it the other day, and I see it everywhere, and it's weird. And so Wookieepedia has a presence that goes beyond the social media bubble, obviously. It is a place where people tend to get their information, and sometimes it's by accident, right? If, like, somebody like my dad, who's a science fiction Star Wars fan, although not on social media, not engaging in the same way that I do, but he's very likely to look up Ahsoka Tano after seeing her on The Mandalorian for the first time and stumbling upon Wookieepedia. Do you feel do you try to write your content so that it's accessible to what my friend Jerry, the Canon Junkie, says are normies, or is there a particular style or level of, like there's the old, textbooks have to be written to a certain grade level. Do you try to put your content in that direction, or what sort of guidelines do you have there?
So we have what we call our manual of style, which details everything about how articles should be written, everything from grammar rules and recommendations to page layout, and everything in between, so that everything is more or less, with the exception of a couple kind of different writing styles, everything is uniform. So you can click on any one of our status articles and know that you're getting a top quality page that lists everything possible. Mm-hmm. And what we'll do also is every page that goes over a certain word count will get an introduction, which is essentially a short form version of the article. So if somebody, let's say, like you said, searches for Ahsoka Tano, they'll find a quick little intro of, okay, this is Ahsoka Tano, here's kind of the highlights. Then you scroll down and here's the 10,000 word article.
The TLDR, right?
Which I think right now, I think our longest page on site right now is I want to say it was the Legends. I'm actually going to look it up. I believe it was the Legends version of Anakin Skywalker. Just pull it up here. I'm actually just genuinely curious now. I can tell you right now our article on Revan is our 31st largest article on site. And that took me like a month. To review. Yeah, so our longest article on site right now is Anakin Skywalker /Legends at 759,988 bytes.
Wow. Holy cow. That's like a novel on wow. And that's Legends, because there's a lot more stuff that's been written in that Legends side of things. That's wild. Are there any particular pages that you are particularly fond of? Is there any page that you just you just think is really cool or unique?
I'm going to have to, for that one, go with either our Canon Thrawn page, just because it has been massively increased over the last couple of months. Mm-hmm. But I'm probably going to have to go with, honestly, Revan, because it's probably one of the, if not the best written article on site.
Do you think that's going to change dramatically when the new versions of Knights of the Old Republic comes out, or?
Once we see whether or not it's going to be fit into the new canon or not, potentially.
Yeah.
Personally, I'm hoping that they more or less just do a complete recreation of the old game with just upgraded graphics.
Yeah.
Not only because then we can get better quality images, but because I personally have never actually played through KOTOR, and I would love to be able to do that on a new and improved platform.
Yeah, I can't. That's one of those things I'm really looking forward to. And it's funny because I've tried to play it like in the re-release versions, and it's got a great story, but it's just it's just a little too chunky, right? I just wish it would. I'm really excited for it to come out.
I did buy it in the last Steam sale a couple of weeks ago, along with pretty much every single Star Wars game. Right. But then I got sidetracked. By playing through the original Dark Forces, and then I got sidetracked playing Battlefront 2, and I've been doing a lot of that online.
Yes.
With and I can actually give a shout out to Kyle there in the comments, who I've been actually doing a lot of Battlefront 2 with.
It's pretty cool. We have a question here from Kamos Mills. This guy, he's always out there. He's a lot of fun to hang out with. And I clicked the wrong one. He said his question is there a particular article or articles you guys are having to consistently update more than others?
Oh, that's a good question. And I'm also going to give a shout out to Kamose, because you've been absolutely fantastic engaging with us on Twitter. I've had a lot of fun chatting with you on there.
It's such a great account. Yeah.
That's a very good question, though. I don't think there's any one in particular that has to get updated constantly, aside from when, say, there's a new release. So when Book of Boba Fett comes out, it'll be Boba Fett. When Mando came out, it was Din Djarin or Grogu / Baby Yoda. And that kind of fluctuates depending on what content is coming out right now.
Right. So now you guys are on every Wednesday morning for the next 7 weeks, starting at the end of the month. You're going to be like up at 3 a.m. watching and writing, right? How do you make sure that you're not like working on something and somebody posts it just before you've spent 2 hours writing it?
It's honestly, that's a gamble that you just kind of have to take. Generally, if you're doing a large edit, it's better to create a subpage on your user page where you can copy all the content, write it out, and then just copy it over in one fell swoop instead of trying to do all of it over like a 3-hour period. If you do it in a subpage, then you can just copy it over and you're done, and you don't have to worry about someone else conflicting your edit.
I can imagine I used to when I was with the Beyond the Blast Doors Network, like two of us would write an article reviewing the latest episode of The Mandalorian, and then we'd be like, okay, well now which one are we going to use? Can we mash them together? Well, that's the great thing about a wiki, right? You can kind of say, okay, good. Well, you went into depth on his armor, and I went into depth on his vehicle, so we're good. We can put them together. And
a lot of that comes back to everyone's got their own little niche interests. So some people, someone will work on the biography, someone likes doing the behind the scenes, someone likes doing the introduction, and everything just kind of meshes together just perfectly.
That's great. Yeah. And again, it creates this amazing reference point for everybody to use, who can go back, and my dad can go become familiar with Ahsoka Tano and not have to go and watch hours and hours of animation that he probably wouldn't watch anyway. So, and I have to say, I love Wookieepedia. Before I go, as you can imagine, this is like my 147th or 8th episode. And, when I interviewed like Kevin Scott, for example, there's no way I would have read all of Kevin's stuff. I mean, I should, but look, off the record, nobody's listening. I couldn't read all of it, but it's a great way for me to get prepared for all my conversations. And again, as we were saying before, there's stuff about characters, but there's also stuff about process and authors and key creators and things like that, which is fantastic. So
and like I said before, one of the things I want to do is I want us to have more of an outgoing presence. So we've also created a VIP channel on our Discord where we have a number of absolutely amazing people, including Christine Ariel, host of the High Republic show, who we actually did an interview with a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah,
and like these are people that a lot of our community has like looked up to as, oh, you wrote that book that I loved, and here they are in our Discord chatting with, asking, hey, what's up?
It's great, and it like you said, it is so cool to see And obviously I have nothing to do with Wikipedia, but it is so cool for me to see when someone
Not
like
yet,
that,
anyways.
not yet. It's early. It's going to happen, man. I'm telling you.
New faces are always welcome, and this goes out to anyone who's watching this. If you want to join Wikipedia, you can. There are no rules about who can and cannot edit on our site.
That's fantastic.
Unless you come there just to troll and vandalize, in which case you're going to get banned.
Right, and you'll pick up.
But if you come there with the intention of just improving something and helping us out, or even just hopping on our Discord to have a couple good chats with us, please, you're more than welcome. We would love to meet you.
You know, you are filling me with hope on a day where I've been dealing with some crazy stuff on Twitter. You're filling me with hope and making me feel good about the fan community. Thank you, Jordan. This is great. Well, we have a great question.
That is my ultimate goal. If I can make someone's day a little bit better with what I'm honestly our hopeless optimist. If I can make somebody's day a little bit better just by something simple, I'm going to do it because I want everyone to have a good day.
Now, how much of that is because you're Canadian and it's in your nature versus just being a good friend?
That is a very good question. I think part of it has to do with the fact that I grew up in a very small town that was kind of everyone kind of knows everybody.
Right.
But in general, yeah, my nature is just I'm very optimistic. I'm very outgoing. I'm very positive and hopeful. Kyle, I actually, in the comments that I work with him, he can vouch for me on this, and I suspect he will in just a minute there.
I mean, it's so cool. It's great. We have a question from Podcast of the Wills. My buddy Nick says, what is the weirdest, in your opinion, Star Wars page on Wikipedia?
Ooh, that is a good one. If we're going by straight up weird pages, let me just find it here. I did a video on this on our YouTube channel a couple weeks ago, but it was a page entitled Korriboar. And it's hands down got to be one of the weirdest concepts I've ever heard, and I'll give you a little blurb of it as soon as this loads here. Thank you, rural Canadian internet.
Like I was saying before, don't feel bad. Every Canadian guest I've had has, I think it's the metric system. That's what's throwing you guys off.
So it's a comprehensive article, and it was honestly, even though it's a very short one, it's only like a minute-long video, I had a lot of fun doing this just because it is so exceptionally weird.
Okay.
A quick little blurb of it here. This is the entirety of the article. There is no further information about this. The Korriboar was a virtual reality attraction that bounty hunter Aura Singh considered clever and was present at a fun fair on the Galactic Empire's capital of Coruscant in 19 BBY. The Korriboar used a neurostim booth in order to give the user the sensation of becoming a starship with all of its component parts. Try and figure out, what does that mean?
I'm getting like L337 vibes from that immediately. That's what happened there, but oh wow. When
I do our YouTube, I try to throw in kind of these little fun articles here and there that just kind of make you scratch your head and think, what?
But you know, I think that's that's one of the things that I like to do with Wikipedia sometimes is just like follow the different leads, right? Follow the links that are within an article and end up at some place with, again, I've been a Star Wars fan since I saw it in the theaters in 1977, and there are stuff that I find on Wikipedia that I'm like, that's in a Star Wars somewhere or something. That's really, but it really is everything. How many pages did you say it is?
So we have right now 172,135 pages. Apparently something just got deleted.
You just deleted a page. It was that weird one you just read. People were like, nope, can't have that. It's a little too out there. No, that's good.
Must have been that ATG cast host.
Yeah, you be careful what kind of access you give me. Who knows what'll happen.
Shout out there. Hey, Jade, thanks for joining in. Jade's one of our editors over there.
Oh, great.
Jade's also one of our discussions mods. I presume I'm talking about the same Jade here, but Jade's one of our discussions moderators for the discussion side of our platform.
That's great. Now you have the discussion side, you have the articles and entries. You also now have a YouTube channel. What can people find on your YouTube channel?
Right now, quite honestly, not a whole heck of a lot. But what it is for those who aren't familiar, I'll give you a brief rundown on what our status articles are. So on our site, we have three different tiers of status articles. There's featured articles, good articles, and comprehensive articles. And what a status article is, it's something that's passed our review process, that's been deemed to have all information possible. It's well written and follows all applicable policies and guidelines. and it's as good as it can possibly be, and it covers everything. So what I do with our YouTube channel is I'll take one of those good featured or comprehensive articles and I'll do an audio narration of it. It has the added bonus of getting us into the YouTube community and helping us kind of get our name out there a little bit more. And we also link to them on site so that once we kind of get a good number of these, someone could click on an article and, hey, here's an audio version of it, which will help for anyone who maybe has some reading comprehension issues, and will make us more accessible.
Yeah.
But it's going to take a lot of time because we have several thousand status articles with at least another dozen more passing every week.
And I can't believe you're taking an hour out of your day to talk to me when you should be doing stuff like that, Jordan. What are you doing?
Honestly, I'm having a blast. I would honestly love to, if anyone actually wants me to come on their podcast, especially it's showing our TV podcast, The Wills, I'd be more than happy to. Honestly, I have a blast talking about what we do.
It's really, it is, again, it's one of those things that, and I think what's interesting too is how it has become ubiquitous to being a Star Wars fan. Like, people reference Wikipedia like it's just part of being a fan. Oh yeah, I saw that on Wikipedia. I looked that up. That's like the thing, and it's pretty wild. So
I think one of my favorite things with social media was when I first took the Twitter over, and what I do every night is I'll search for the term Wookieepedia, and I'll search for kind of the couple various misspellings. There's 3 E's in Wikipedia, everybody, not 2.
I saw that tweet the other day. I saw that one.
It was necessary. I made a meme of it a couple months ago as well. It was necessary. But one of my favorite things was early on when people kind of just started to realize that we were having an increased social media presence. Mm-hmm. Was finding a mention of Wikipedia and just dropping that hello there gif and watching people just freak out. I was grinning like an idiot when someone would tweet out in all capitals, "Oh my God, Wikipedia liked my tweet." Honestly, like it's such a blast.
It is, and
then a couple weeks back, just for the sake of trying something different, I did a little fan art showcase, and we called it the Starlight Beacon Project, modeled on the High Republic Starlight Beacon as a way of bringing hope to the fandom, where for a couple of days I showcased a lot of very cool, very talented fan art and creations.
Yeah, that was great too. I mean, and it's, again, I think that's, again, we keep talking Star Wars as, owned by the fans and developed by the fans and just keeping it alive. And honestly, I mean, that's the thing too. I mean, I lived through the quote unquote dark times where there was not much Star Wars and people just kept, I mean, the reality is Wikipedia was around during sort of the dark times 2.0. So you guys are responsible for keeping that Star Wars flame lit as well. So
this is Adam Christopher, and you're listening to Around the Galaxy.
So, Jordan, I do this thing on the show where it's our 10 question segment. There are no wrong answers, and I certainly won't judge you, but somebody probably will. So if you don't mind,
I'm gonna try not to be the first one with a wrong answer.
Well, here's the good thing. It's not trivia. So it's, although maybe with a guy who's an admin on Wikipedia, I should have made this more of a trivia. But this is more. I want to get to know the admin here. And so, let's start with question number 1, because that's a great place to start. What is your favorite Star Wars movie, TV show, or book?
All right, so you know what? We'll do all 3 of these. So,
excellent.
Movie, I'm gonna have to go with Revenge of the Sith. The reason for that was the first one I saw in theaters. I remember going to see it with my grandma in theaters. It was before I'm pretty sure it was before I really dove into Star Wars. Mm-hmm. But that's just a very vibrant memory, was going to see that up on the big screen and watching the lightsabers flashing and blasters firing and space battles. It was just one of those things that just kind of had a profound impact.
Yeah.
TV shows, that one's a little more difficult just because there's so much amazing content out there.
Yeah, when I started this 3 years ago, that was a real easy question. It was like Clone Wars or Rebels, basically. Now you have to think about it.
I think I'm gonna have to go with Mandalorian on that, just because of how how much of the expanded universe material it's covered, and how much it's expanded the Star Wars universe, how it's kind of tied all of these other characters together and brought them together. Especially when you get that mention of where is Grand Admiral Thrawn.
Oh, yes, that was fantastic.
100%. Novel-wise, 100% novel-wise is going to be Heir to the Empire, because that's the one that started all. My dream is still to get Timothy Zahn into an interview with me, because I would love to chat with that guy.
Yeah.
I left him a DM on Facebook, and I got left on red, probably because he just had no idea who the heck I was.
It's gonna be like, dude, it's Wookieepedia, man.
No, but that was the one that kind of really started it all for me. And honestly, I can't thank him enough for writing Heirs to the Empire and the whole Dark Empire trilogy, because that had a profound impact on my life from the moment I read it.
And I love that Thrawn is really the living example of the fact that nothing is out of the realm of possibility of returning to canon, right? I think that's one of those really interesting things that, look, if the Green Rabbit Jackson can come back and be canon, anything.
Oh, blessed be Jackson. Blessed be Jackson. A couple months ago, there was a very cool thing done by Displate. They did some limited edition metal posters for Star Wars, and we were pushing for Jackson, but they went with something a little more mainstream.
Well, next time they'll get Jackson. Next time they'll get. Okay, so Jordan, what is your favorite non-Star Wars movie?
Non-Star Wars movie. Oh, that is actually a tricky one as well. I'm not one to normally have a favorite anything, but I'm not sure I actually have an answer to that, to be honest. There's so many good movies that I love, and it depends kind of on what I'm feeling.
Right. Well, maybe what genre do you like? Maybe
for genre, I'm gonna have to go with two here, and that's gonna be either post-apocalyptic / dystopian, or anything that's kind of alternate reality. So things like anything that kind of deals with an alternate reality Earth where things progress a little bit differently, or maybe a war turned out differently, or something, or a different country took over. Anything that kind of covers the realm of what if.
That's cool. That's great. Speaking of what if, are you a Marvel fan as well?
I am, but I have not. I've only seen the first episode, and I loved it. I want to see a Star Wars What If. If anyone with any creative control is listening to this, please make this happen. I will co-host it. Just make it happen.
You want to talk about a way to bring the fans together, right? Because I think that's one of the consistent forms or places where there is discourse in a negative way is around the things that happened and have been quote unquote decanonized and again come back, right? It would be great to see what would happen if the Death Star didn't work, or if this or that, what would have happened there. So that's I would love to see that kind of thing. All right,
hello there.
Hello there.
Hello there.
Okay, so describe Star Wars in 3 words or less.
3 words or less. Star Wars rules.
I love that. That's great. Star Wars.
If you give me 5 words, it's going to be Star Wars is for everyone.
Yeah. Okay, I can deal with that too. Yep.
3 words is not enough.
Awesome. Who is or what is your favorite? I say who, but technically, if they're machines, they're what? But who is your favorite Star Wars droid?
I gotta go with the classic R2-D2.
Yeah,
he's always there. In terms of etiquette, though, I gotta pick C-3PO because as that friendly, polite neighborhood Canadian, he's kind of the Star Wars representation of what a Canadian is.
Yeah, but he feels like he's a little more worried than most Canadians, right? Maybe.
Yeah, a lot of us don't tend to worry all that much.
It's funny. I love I may have told this story before, but I actually learned the Canadian national anthem before the American national anthem because I watched so much hockey when I was a kid, and it's a better song if we're being honest. So, I
think Erebus, one of our editors, is also going to absolutely murder me if I don't throw out a General Grievous is awesome moment here.
Yes. Yeah. No, this would be the place for it. That's excellent. Cool. All right. The next question is, what is your favorite sound effect?
Lightsaber.
Yeah.
Definitely just the sound of that lightsaber powering up. That.
Yep. It is.
It's just iconic.
Yeah, it's
I'm gonna echo that comment there. Also, shout out to Vasily. Vasily is one of our also editors. Is also one of our editors.
That's great. So yeah, so you have it was a total of 10 folks, 7 admins, and 3 delegates.
3 bureaucrats. Yeah, and then probably, I say this is a very rough number, but probably at least 50 plus regular active people. So people who are contributing on a daily or weekly basis.
Oh wow.
But that number fluctuates. Like we'll have people leave and come back. We'll have people who disappear for a couple of years and then just abruptly come back one day. Like, hey, what's up, guys?
Where have you?
Some people leave based on real world obligations, but we do our best to keep in touch and just make sure everyone's doing okay.
That's great. That's cool, and it's great that there's a community within the community. That's really fantastic.
It's more or less. It honestly feels like one big family because there's people that I've talked to on there for the last 10 years of my life. There's people that know more about me than my own family does in real life.
Yeah.
We've seen each other through thick and thin. We've helped each other through a lot of hard times. We've helped each other through a lot of good times. But at the end of the day, we're all there for each other. We're one big family.
And that's the thing. I think that people, again, this is a recurring theme tonight, Jordan, is it's this, the community for Star Wars is bigger than the movies. 100%. So, all right. So the next question here on the 10 questions list is, what character would you most like to be in Star Wars and why?
I think I would have to pick Thrawn.
Ooh.
And in a way, that's kind of becoming full circle because the way that Thrawn always looked at things, though, analytically and methodically, was something that had a profound impact on me as a child growing up. So that would be cool to come kind of full circle and step into that role.
Do you who do you want to see play him in the in live action? That's not one of the 10 questions, but Thrawn's one of my favorites as well.
To be honest, I'm not entirely sure who would be the best role to play him.
Yeah.
As long as we get the Kiners doing the audio for it or the soundtrack for it, I'm happy.
I have to say, one of the highlights of my podcast for me is when I had Mark Thompson on, and Mark Thompson. Now, if you listen to the show, you'll hear at the very beginning of every episode, you hear him say, "You're listening to Around the Galaxy," and I had him do it as Thrawn, and it's one of those things.
Oh, that's awesome.
If I quit the podcast tomorrow, I'm just going to make that my ringtone or something because and Mark Thompson's just such a great guy as well. I met him at New York Comic-Con, and he got up he was a surprise guest, and he read it was when I don't remember which Thrawn book was coming out, but nobody knew it was coming out, and they had him come up and they said, Mark's going to give us a little insight to the next book that's coming, and he reads an opening passage in Thrawn's voice, and it just like sent chills through me because he's just amazing, and he's just such a wonderful guy. So
I think one of my favorite things recently was when I got to do an interview. It was originally just with Sean and Dean Kiner, and then midway through, abruptly out of nowhere, Kevin Kiner walks in and just joins in.
Oh my gosh!
And we ended up just having this great conversation. We talked a lot about the Thrawn theme and about the inspiration for it. And they just did an amazing job with that theme. I think it had a profound impact on a lot of people.
Yeah,
especially the way they kind of threw in that little kind of organ music, and it just tied in so perfectly with his character.
Yeah, and you look at the music that Göransson has done, and I said this to David W. Collins when he was on with me, that when I first heard the music, I was like, this doesn't feel right, but yet it feels perfect. And those that have been able to bring soundtrack to Star Wars have done just such a great job. All right, I'm going to give you an extra question because it's not in the top 10, but Shinobi put this one in, and it's worth asking you, especially because you're a Legends guy. Which book series would you like to see completed? And he says, why is it Sword of the Jedi? And that could be your answer, but what is
that? Funny you mentioned this, because I was actually just going to say, I'm going to throw in one more here because I really like that question. And yeah, I'm going to have to go with, if we're going by something that was scrapped, Sword of the Jedi, if we're going by concept in general, I want to see some more content that would bridge the gap between Fate of the Jedi and everything into the Legacy era, where you get kind of the Fel Empire.
Wow.
I want to see something bridging that gap.
Now, what are your thoughts on because I'm really enjoying the way they are bringing EU into into canon through these sort of, whether it's sort of a casual tip of the hat or things that are clearly coming. Like, for example, I'm sure you picked up on it, but not everybody picked up on when they released some of the sketches from Bad Batch, and it was confirmed that the mountain at the end of Bad Batch is called Mount Tantus, and you're like, okay, it's happening. Dark Empire.
Honestly, I love it.
Yeah.
My only complaint is the fact that they spelled Wayland as Weyland instead of Wayland. I ended up actually bugging Pablo. Hidalgo about that on Twitter. I apologize if I annoyed you with it, but I was like, really? But no, honestly, I honestly love, because it's a cool way to throw back to all the old Legends material, and it's a cool way to introduce people who know the new continuity into that older continuity, especially when they go to Wikipedia to look up something like, say, Mount Tantus. Yeah. And they see, oh, what's this Legends tab? And oh, here's a whole other thing that I didn't even know about.
Yep. Oh yeah, and it is great. And again, that's the cool thing with the Legends and the canon tab on Wikipedia is, and sometimes you don't realize that something came from Legends. I mean, even somebody like me who has been a fan forever but didn't, keep up with everything. It's kind of cool to be like, oh, I didn't realize that this happened already, and I like the variation on it. It's sort of a living what if you will. So.
One cool thing that you'll notice on any of our status articles is if it's something that's canon that originated in Legends, we'll include a little mention in the behind the scenes of this subject originally appeared in X in the Legends continuity in X year. Yes, that is, and it's great. And that's, again, that's why Wikipedia works, because there's so much attention to detail. And again, to your point, you can go as deep or as shallow as you want with it, which is really cool. So. Yeah, there are no rules to being a fan.
Jordan, you're filling this up with like little clips that I'm gonna have to use on the show, little quotes. I'm gonna, after we're done, you're gonna keep Wookieepedia going, and I'm gonna write the Jordan book of Star Wars social media book. That's perfect. I'm sure you've noticed on Twitter, especially lately, I've been posting a lot of things about reiterating that the Star Wars community is for everyone, and that there's no rules to being a fan, and that everyone has a place here, and that there's no problem with LGBTQ plus representation in Star Wars. It's only enhancing it. Yes. I really want to get that message out there, especially because we're in that unique position. I really want to get that message out there that there are no rules to being a Star Wars fan. There is one rule to being a Star Wars fan. The only rule to being a Star Wars fan is that you like Star Wars. Right. It's pretty easy. It's an easy club to get into. Yes. It's not a difficult concept. If you like something about Star Wars, you're in the club. Yes. Welcome aboard. We're very happy to have you. Just don't be a jerk. That's all we ask. Don't be a jerk. That's the only that's rule number one. Rule number one is you got to like Star Wars. Rule number two is don't be a jerk. And even then, just, don't consistently be a jerk. That's and the cool thing with our community is, obviously not all of us like everything about Star Wars, and we have our disagreements and our bickering. Right. But at the end of the day, we all come together because we want to see this content improved. Right. Yep. And a wiki is the ultimate place for that to happen, right? I mean, everybody's there for the same purpose, right? Yeah. And when it comes to social media, the only thing that's going to get you blocked by us is being a jerk and targeting somebody. You can disagree on content and you can argue about content, but don't delve into personal harassment and personal attacks. Yep. They don't have a place in this community. Yeah, that's not that hard to do, although it seems hard for some, but that's okay. We can move through that. And again, I think ultimately, right. I mean, we can go as deep or as shallow on that as you like, but the reality is, and I'm not suggesting we do so here, but the reality is it's there's so much more positive than negative. It's just unfortunate, it's like, was it the brightest light casts the darkest shadow, right? So, was it Matthew W. Stover said that, right? So yeah, and at the end of the day, the entire Star Wars series, it's built on the idea of hope. Right. Yep. And that's something that can translate into real life. People can take inspiration from that. I love it. That's fantastic. Okay. I'm the epitome of positive Canadians.
It's just who I am.
Yeah.
It's why I'm good with social media.
Yeah, it's so great.
I will throw a shout out to Fred though, Master Fred. He's one of our bureaucrats, and he runs our Instagram page as well, and he does such a fantastic job with that. I'm very jealous of the follower. I'm jealous of the follower count he has on there. I'm doing my best to push towards it. So please follow us on Twitter so I can tell him I caught up to him.
So get on that. It's easy. It's Wookieepedia. It's not that hard to lose. All right.
On our Instagram's over 100,000 followers, and at last count we're I think at like 58,000 now. So please, for the love of God, follow us. For the love of the Force.
I love this little internal competition at Wookieepedia. Who knew? All right. So my next question on the list here is: what is your favorite Star Wars collectible?
It's going to have to be my Lego Star Destroyer that I got for Christmas several years ago. I had a blast building that thing. I actually I had it as a display piece in the background in the first interview I did with the Kiners.
Mm-hmm.
I had such a blast with it. It's now prominently displayed above my bookshelves, right alongside the that was right alongside my AT-AT until the cat knocked it down, and the Razor's Crest.
Yeah.
There's something about Dameron's X-Wing.
There's something so much fun. I have become just such a big it's funny because I have a 9-year-old son, and at first it was, hey, I'm going to get a Lego for Jack, and we'll do it together. And now it's Jack.
I'm getting this for myself.
Yeah, don't touch this one. I'm going to work on this one. You do something else. Yeah.
And if anybody wants to donate Star Wars Lego to us, I mean, please feel free to reach out, and I will display it prominently in an interview.
Jordan will make it part of his set piece when he gets the Canadian internet working, so that he can use the video a lot more. Right.
That's why I record all of our I've recorded our interviews in advance to avoid that potential. So if anyone high up at Lego is watching this, please send me Lego. Thanks.
they can drop one to me too. Actually, if they DM me, I'll hook you up with Jordan. Why don't we do that way? We'll both benefit here. So and
I'll reiterate for anyone who's just joining. If you want us to come onto your podcast, please reach out. I'm having a blast doing this. I would love to talk with you. It's so much fun. Please send us a DM.
That's awesome. Cool. All right. So I'm going to get to the next question here, which is if you could, and actually we saw a variation of this program. This question from, I think I'm going to find who it was Kyle, right? Yeah. If you could own any spaceship or vehicle from the Star Wars universe, what would it be? And I'm going to
take I lost it for the first part of that there. What was the question?
Yeah. If you could own any spaceship or vehicle from the Star Wars universe, what would it be? Are you still there?
Was it the if you could have any ship in the Star Wars universe?
That's it. That's the question. Yep.
Okay. So I'm gonna have to go with my profile picture on Wikipedia and on our Discord, the Imperial class Star Destroyer. Imperial 2 class specifically. You got to go for the upgraded model. But that was also something that just had a very positive impact on me as a child, was seeing that giant triangular Star Destroyer just looming in on the big screen.
It's such a beautiful design for a ship, and I think that it's funny. I look at Star Wars, and sometimes I just think, like, why does this work, and why does other science fiction not work for me? And I mean, even I love Dune, and the ships were beautiful, and they were, they were art, but it just, like, there was something that just didn't ring the way a Star Wars ship does, and especially a Star Destroyer and an X-wing and a TIE fighter are just brilliant pieces of design. 100%.
Yeah, I'll throw in a second part to that as well. If we're going by a non-Imperial ship,
sure.
If we're going with that, it's going to be the winged version of the MC-80 Mon Calamari Star Cruiser.
Oh wow!
Just because it's just such a beautiful design.
And that, to me, see, the Mon Calamari stuff. So back in the day when I was young and into Star Wars and a teenager in the 80s, there were a number of just like science fiction art books, like paintings and things. And I always felt like the Mon Calamari cruisers were very much of that sort of fantasy sci-fi art look, the bubbles and the smooth lines and it's amazing. And this is what makes Star Wars work, right? Maybe we finally come up with what it is you can take that sci-fi fantasy flowy kind of ship, and you can put it next to the triangular, angry-looking Imperial stuff, and it all works together. Whereas so much science fiction tries to have an aesthetic, and Star Wars does, but the aesthetic is almost not having an aesthetic in a way.
Yeah, it's everything is here. Here's everything.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a galaxy. It's not a planet. It's not a system. It's a galaxy full of stuff. So
one cool thing about kind of my Star Wars journey, I remember as a kid, I would go to this cool little used bookstore. It's run by like a single guy, and every time I went there, I would always look at the art of Return of the Jedi. It always had a very high price tag on it, so I would go in and I would read through it. I'd flip through the pages and look at all the cool artwork, and especially that Mon Calamari Star Cruiser. Then one Christmas, my mom bought it for me, and I think I read that thing like cover to cover.
Yeah. And the art of Star Wars, like I still have in my basement, and it is beat to heck, and it's the Joe Johnston Blueprints book. From the original ship, or the original show, the original movie, the very first, and it's this blue cover book, and it's beat up, and it's got like my little sketches in the corner because I wanted to draw when I was. But what I love about it, and the reason I'm so happy I found it at my parents' house during one of their moves, is just that was what Star Wars was to me, just like being able to engage with it and just soaking it all in. The Joe, that's it. Michael Knipp says the Joe Johnston sketchbook. That's what it was. And
yeah,
I love that stuff, and love all the artwork and all the old art of stuff.
And it's always cool looking back at that thing that started you out on this journey.
Yeah.
And just thinking, you know what? This is where I started. This is what hooked me. This was the exact moment I realized I'm a Star Wars nerd, and that's not going to change.
It is true. It is very true. I remember spending hours in my buddy Kevin's basement listening to the story of Star Wars on LP on his little tiny record player, and that was it, man. That was it. Okay, so the next question is, what's your favorite Star Wars moment?
Favorite Star Wars moment? Well, I'll do this as a two-part. If we're doing movies, I'm gonna have to do the introduction of Revenge of the Sith, when you get the two Jedi interceptors flying into that beautiful background music.
Oh yeah, with the drums.
If we're going with outside of that, one of my favorite moments is gonna have to be Leia's speech in the Star by Star, where she talks about how fight till you can fight no more, then exhaust the enemy chasing you, and then turn and fight some more.
Wow. I like that a lot.
It's one of those quotes. It's one of those quotes that's just kind of stuck with me over the years, and maybe I'll tweet that. I think that might actually be too long for me to tweet out. It might be over the character limit.
Yeah.
Twitter, increase your character limit, please.
Yes.
You're making this hard on me.
That's great. Well,
thank you, Twitter. Thank you, Twitter, for giving us the verified check mark.
Yeah. That's that. Well, I have to say, honestly, when you first came back out, I was like, all right, I need to make sure that this is the official Wikipedia, not just somebody kind of taking it. Well, interestingly, the last question is, what's your favorite or your go-to Star Wars quote? Not your favorite, but the quote that you use the most.
Go-to, it's going to be from going to have to be that final quote from Thrawn and Legends, but it was so artistically done.
Nice.
That's the one that just kind of sticks with me.
Yeah. Thrawn's such a great character. I'm excited to see him in live action and excited to see him come back, but I'm also so for no reason, I'm just nervous because he's such
because you want to see, he's a good character. You want to see him done justice.
Yep. But as you said, you don't have to love everything. You got and that's kind of the point too, is like, you don't have to love the sequels because you still have 35 years of Star Wars before that. You have it. I had why can't I think of his name right now? But I had a guest on who was a huge Star Wars Legends fan, and he gets it. Like that's his. Oh, sorry, it's Scott Rifen. Like, I apologize, Scott. I couldn't remember your name off the top. I had Scott Rifen on, and he was a Legends collector. I mean, he literally had. He said he had 40 boxes worth of books, and he doesn't necessarily love all the sequel stuff, but he'll always have those stories. Those stories will always exist, and I think that's. Let's add that to your list of quotes, Jordan. You'll always have that Star Wars that you love. And again, I may have stopped in 1977 with the Joe Johnston sketchbook and A New Hope, and just that might have been it for me. And that's cool. I'm still a Star Wars fan. You don't have to love everything that's come out since.
Yeah, and I'll go back to that kind of go-to quote I had earlier. What you dislike, somebody else is going to find inspiration in. So you may not like The Last Jedi, but someone else may find inspiration from the way that Luke sacrificed himself.
Right.
And then if someone can find some inspiration in it, that's good enough for me.
100%. That's great. Well, Jordan, this was awesome. I had so much fun talking to you. I had a great time getting to know Wookieepedia. I feel like I know more about my favorite website than I ever did before, and that's awesome. And more importantly, I feel like we connected. I'm really excited to speak to you. Where can people follow you and Wookieepedia online? So
as far as social media goes, we have our Twitter, which I'm hoping that most of you are familiar with by now, but if not, please follow us. We're at Wookofficial. We have our Twitter, our Instagram account as well, which I believe was just at Wikipedia, but I'll double check that for you, and I'll post that on Twitter after as well.
Excellent.
We have our YouTube channel, which please check us out there. I have a blast making those videos. I apologize that the first few were kind of clunky. I was learning what the hell I was doing. In terms of actual site, Wikipedia itself, obviously, but we have our Discord server as well. I'll drop a link to that as well on our Twitter account. On our Discord, we have a couple different channels for those who aren't verified, so who aren't kind of active on site, and that's our discussions and user help. Please drop in anytime. We would love to chat with you.
That's great. Well, Jordan,
and if you want to connect with me personally, you can reach me at Supreme Empero11 on Twitter, or DM us on @Wookofficial. I'll be more than happy to talk to you.
Awesome. Jordan, thank you so much for giving us your time tonight and hanging out. And despite the Canadian internet, I think we still had a great time.
Thanks so much for having me. I had an absolute blast doing this. It's been a serious pleasure getting to you.
Well, that wraps it up for this episode of Around the Galaxy. Thank you so much to Jared, and thank you for listening. Happy holidays. If you had fun, please like, subscribe, share, rate, review it. Call a friend, tell your buddy, tweet about it. I don't know. Careful on Twitter, though. It gets a little crazy out there. Anyway, our music is brought to us by the band Silver Colored Knob, who can be found just about anywhere you find music. The show is copyright 2021 Pete in the Seat Studios. Follow us on Twitter and Facebook and all those other places at ATGcast. And go to our website, atgcast.com. Thank you, and we'll see you in the new year.